All right. All eyes pointing at Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico. Remember them songs? Sometimes you hear them playing. Puerto Rico. Oh, wait, we're on the edge of disaster, bankruptcy. Puerto Rico. They do like their big brother. Put everything on credit. Uh, Politicians, of course, put everything on credit as well. And now we're finding out, as you're about to hear from Zero Hedge, that some, at least a few $billions in borrowed money, that they can just simply say it was unconstitutional for us to borrow that amount or for this particular reason. So the person or banks or whoever lent us the money, it's unconstitutional, you get nothing. So you'd have to ask yourself, is it the lender's responsibility to know if you are borrowing in some kind of unconstitutional manner? The answer is no. You're responsible. You're the one who's doing it. It's your obligation. However, being government and all, we just flick our magic wands when we need to, and it's poof, it's gone. Now, wouldn't you sorry consumer, taxpayer, peasant, citizen, wouldn't you like to look at all the debt that you have, or the average American has, I should say, which is massive, by the way, and say, well, I'm going to knock off 25% of my debt because I've got my own personal constitution. And there's a clause in there about budgeting. And my advisor, my wife, advised me at the time that she thought we shouldn't do it because of that clause. But I convinced her through my legal speak jargon nonsense that we would not be violating that because it was going to be temporary and it would be put back. And well, we weren't able to put it back, and it's not temporary. So we have to issue you a sorry about your luck letter that says under subsection C, we weren't authorized to borrow that money. So you get nothing. Oh, but wait, I don't have a personal constitution that can really do that, but the government does. And all they have to say is we shouldn't have been able to borrow the money. In other words, we illegally borrowed the money. We broke the law, our own law, and we borrowed more than we were supposed to. So what does that mean? Does that mean you crooks, you politicians should have to pay? Answer, actually, yeah. You did this. Oh, but I was under I was a employee of the federal government, so that you can't attack me personally. You can't sue me personally. I was under the job. I was under my official duty. So can you rob a bank or murder people? Well, actually, they do that, don't they? Never mind. Let's go ahead with this story. After Puerto Rico defaulted on its $422 million debt payment, just the payment, right? The debt's 70-something billion. This is a couple quarters in their back pocket they couldn't afford to pay. Back in May, Governor Padilla begged the United States Congress to step in and help out, which happened shortly thereafter when a House committee cleared legislation that provided Puerto Rico with a way forward on restructuring its debt. As it turns out, on the day the House announced that it planned on taking up the Puerto Rico bill next week, a 17-member audit commission found that two debt issues worth $4.4 billion of the $72 billion in debt outstanding were actually unconstitutional. Said otherwise, the government may now just declare the bonds invalid. See how easy that is? Oh, JP Morgan, I know I owe $10,000 on my credit card. Citigroup, I know I owe $13,000. Discover, I owe $17,000 unless I know. I'm just going to listen, you guys keep calling me. I'm tired of the phone calls. I'm just going to declare this invalid. Have a nice day. Stop calling me. Wouldn't that be nice? It's a handy development for Governor Padilla since the two debt issues were expected to default on July 1st. Also helpful is the fact that it would be one less item for Padilla to worry about since he proposed a budget for 2016 and 2017 that provides for only $209 million of the $1.4 billion in current debt service cost. As Market Watch explains, an audit report published on Thursday suggests that debt-laden Puerto Rico may be able to avoid some of its borrowing because politicians exceeded constitutional debt limits and their own authority. The report shared with Market Watch. Well, let me stop for a second. You ever hear something, and it's usually a financial institution or some kind of financial thing that they want you to use, and they use this to tell you this is the most safe thing ever, nothing to worry about. And that is backed by the full faith and credit of the federal government. It must be solid gold. The full faith and credit of their faith and credit must be phenomenal. Right, it's the federal government. Can't get any better than that. Well, you're right. Okay, sign me up. These loans, these bonds you guys paid for, $4.4 billion that we're telling you are now void, those were backed, all of it was backed by the full faith and credit of the Puerto Rican federal government. But we just declared those invalid, so it's not backed by anything. That backing by the full faith and credit doesn't apply because we just make it invalid. Well, hold on a second. When this financial institution was selling me this product, this financial product that they said that's backed by the full faith and credit of the government, you didn't tell me that the government can just flick a magic wand and say they're invalid. Well, we didn't know. This is not supposed to happen. Exactly. Not supposed to happen, but will happen. My pension, it's my money and I need it now. Not supposed to happen. Now is it? It happened. And it happened again. And it happened again. Obamacare, great insurance, Affordable Care Act. It's affordable for everyone. The Affordable Care Act, the ACA, man. More than half, I think, now of the co-ops, the Obamacare centers, bankrupt, gone, see ya. The other remaining ones, struggling and losing money constantly. Which means what? Bankruptcy for the near future of those entities. Healthcare itself, out of control. Even higher premiums coming this year, later on, again, right around election time, we'll find out. It is unsustainable. The entire country is sick. And as long as you have a sick country eating GMO foods and blasted with sugar, which is the feeder of cancer, you are never, ever, no matter what kind of healthcare system you have in a country, ever going to be able to deal with that. Now, if we go back to the way it was, it's simply, we're going to have a little physical or a little bill of health, if you will, and then we'll give you your rates. Oh, you seem okay, you get good rates. The rest of you slobs who eat all this garbage, which, in all fairness, it's not necessarily your fault when you go to the grocery store and every goddamn thing on the shelf is blasted full of sugar. Fat-free though, fat-free. Oh, that's what I want. What happens when you take fat out of a product? It loses the taste and tastes like crap. So what do? Load it full of sugar. I was watching a couple of documentaries the other day. Both of them completely separate, yet same answer. Sugar is the cause of all of our health problems because we are overindulged in sugar in everything. Sugar is actually good for you in the right amount. But when everything, 29 grams, oh, that's all. Well, hold on. 29 grams, not for the whole box. 29 grams per serving. Orange juice. I like orange juice. Apple juice. 29 grams, 30 grams, 32 grams, depending, per 8 ounces. Well, that's just a cup. So essentially, if I drink this one cup, I now have the entire amount of sugar my body's supposed to have all day long. Good luck with that, because I got to eat lunch, breakfast, plus the juice. Breakfast, you know it has sugar in it, no matter what it is you're eating. Juice, another 29 grams. Lunch, dinner, any snacks in between, any drink other than water, boom. In the Problem is, sugar is causing all these health issues. So if you have a country who's full of sick people, you are never going to have cheap insurance unless the government allows the insurance companies to deny freaking everybody who isn't healthy, which means the entire food industry has to change because nobody's going to be healthy. Almost nobody's going to be able to qualify for insurance, which means insurance companies would essentially go bankrupt. So this all boils back down to the foods and drinks we are ingesting. Food, not even too much of the drinks, but the food. Because again, you could eat the same foods you eat and drink water all day, you're still getting too much sugar. So, speaking of backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government, in this case, the FDA, the USDA, there were hearings in the 70s about sugar, and the lobbyists killed any and all bills, reversed some laws, done. They will put as much sugar as they want to. Have a nice day. So this same entity, which we rely on for the full faith and credit of, is corrupt and rotten to the core to begin with. So anybody who I've got a pension, I've got a retirement account, if you put your money into that system, you will ultimately deserve what you get. Not necessarily any fault of your own, because you've been brainwashed the whole freaking entire time you've been alive. The second you can see that TV and hear noise through your ear, you've been brainwashed. Invest in the stock market. Get a retirement account. Do this. 401k. The 401k is a boat anchor attached to your leg that you can never get out of unless you don't have a job. It's the only time you're going to get out of it. Anyways, let me get back to Puerto Rico and its defaulting on the $72 billion of debt. Puerto Rico is a tiny little island. How in the hell does it have $72 billion in debt to begin with? And how is this just now being found out as of the late last year when it first came about? First time anyone heard it. Whoa, what? Puerto Rico? I thought we were talking about Greece, Syria, Cyprus, EU zone, Venezuela, right? Puerto Rico, $72 billion in debt. As Lindsey Williams said, anything in paper won't be worth the paper it is written on when this all goes down. The only thing standing will be hard assets, namely gold and silver, and other hard assets, but namely gold and silver. An audit report published on Thursday suggests that debt-laden Puerto Rico may be able to void some of its borrowing because politicians exceeded constitutional debt limits and their own authority. The report, shared with MarketWatch, states that some of Puerto Rico's debt may have been issued illegally, allowing the government to potentially declare the bonds invalid and courts to then decide the creditor's claims are unenforceable. The scope of the audit report issued by the island's Public Credit Comprehensive Audit Commission. Always have to have a commission, more bureaucrats, more salaries to produce nothing. Covers the two most recent full faith and credit based issues of the Commonwealth. Puerto Rico's 2014 $3.5 billion general obligation bond offering and a $900 million issuance in 2015 of tax refund anticipation notes. Tax refund anticipation notes? We anticipate that the taxes we're going to have to issue will be this amount, and what we're going to be taking in as income will be this amount. So here's some bonds on that. Sounds real good, doesn't it? Yeah, I'll take some. Oh, listen, we had a little recession, big recession coming in. Nobody saw it coming. Sorry about that. And our tax refund anticipation wasn't nearly what it was supposed to be. So aside from us wiping out $4 billion, there's some other stuff we need to kind of look at. We miscalculated, revision. Another revision. Just like the terrible jobless numbers that just came out. Gold and silver rise on terrible job numbers. So guess what else? We had two revisions in that for previous numbers. One was like 20-something thousand and 30-something thousand, I believe, were the two numbers, if I recall. And they were both revised down. So the last two prior ones were kind of okay. Now all of a sudden sucked because the revision says so. But the latest one that came out sucked really bad and there was no need for a revision. And it mentioned the two other revisions that were included previously. So does that mean the next time we get these numbers in another couple months or whatever, is there going to be a revision on this one which already sucked terribly? The answer might be very well yes. Double revision. Money for those debt payments is not in the Commonwealth's proposed budget either. On Tuesday, Puerto Rico's governor, Alejandro Garcia Padilla, sent a proposed 2016-2017 budget to the island's legislature that provides for only $209 million of the $1.4 billion of current debt service cost. So we owe $1.4 billion, but I have budgeted $209 million to deal with that. Sounds like a problem. Little bit of an insufficient funds issue, huh? As Garcia Padilla told reporters at a news conference, quote, "This is simple. Either we pay Wall Street or we pay Puerto Ricans. If the legislature decides we pay Wall Street more, well, each has his responsibility. I will continue defending Puerto Ricans. Money I send to Wall Street, I do not have to provide services here. So any money sent to Wall Street, ladies and gentlemen, I can't use to provide services here. So my budget to your crooked politicians who were bought and paid for by the Wall Street crowd anyways, I've given them a budget which doesn't give as much to Wall Street and gives most to the people of Puerto Rico where it's needed. If they, however, decide that's not good enough, we need to flip that, where massive majority goes to Wall Street, tiny amount goes to Puerto Ricans. Well, that's for them to decide. That's essentially what he's saying. And if history's my guide, Wall Street's going to get what they want. And the citizens will get less and less services, which is always what happens throughout history as the bankers get paid. Could it not go that way this time? Could maybe Puerto Rico somehow become what Iceland is showing the world, a beacon of light, how to do the right thing? Put the damn bankers in jail, kick them out, and really show the world how to run things? They could do it. And to be honest, I'd love nothing more than to see that happen. I would love to report on that. Magic 8 ball. Oh wait, you have to hold the 8 upwards first. Magic 8 ball. Is Puerto Rico going to do the right thing? Oh. Yes. A simple yes. Magic 8 ball. Everyone should have a Magic 8 ball. You know what thing I'm gonna do when I finally get this freaking game show, political game show going? I'm gonna buy a bunch of Magic 8 balls. And for the winners of my game show, thepoliticalgameshow.com or YouTube channel, The Political Game Show, I'm gonna, as part of the package of winnings, you're gonna get a Magic 8 ball. So when I'm doing when I come do these videos, I can tell everybody, hey, everybody else got a Magic 8 ball. Grab your Magic 8 ball and let's do this together. Even though I'm pre-recording mine, and you can see if yours matches mine. It'll be so much fun. Let's make entertainment out of the collapse of society. Us Americans do that the best. Puerto Rico defaulted May 1st on a portion of its $72 billion in outstanding debt, but the Commission's audit covers 2 debt issues expected to default on July 1st. The report's conclusions may allow the Commonwealth to pursue a strategy with even more dire consequences for bondholders. The Commission's report says that Puerto Rico may have violated its constitution by borrowing to finance deficits, borrowing beyond its debt ceiling, and using a refinance technique called the let's do this appropriately. Using a finance technique called the scoop and toss. Borrowing beyond its debt ceiling and using a free financing technique called the scoop and toss, okay, make sure we got that right, to effectively exceed bond duration limits. Specifically, the Constitution contains a balanced budget clause that explicitly prohibits borrowing to finance operating deficits. The Puerto Rican Constitution contains a balanced budget clause that explicitly prohibits borrowing to finance operating deficits, but its politicians borrowed to cover deficit financing in its 2014 general obligation bond offering, according to the Commission's initial review. The March 2014 general obligation bond states that the proceeds would be used in part to cover deficits that had accumulated and that were expected to occur in the year of the offering. Let me guess, we had an unexpectedly. The documents include a chart showing deficits financed with borrowing during the past and that were expected to recur. In addition, Puerto Rico did not inform bondholders that its constitution forbids it from using debt to finance deficits. That, the Commission's report says, suggests substantive noncompliance with the letter of the Constitution. The U.S. courts have precedent for this argument in Litchfield v. Ballou, and most recently the argument was used by Detroit, when it filed its bankruptcy, although the case was settled prior to trial. The U.S. Supreme Court has said in Litchfield v. Ballou case, more recently in litigation related to Detroit's bankruptcy, that borrowing above a debt ceiling may allow the issuer to declare debt invalid and therefore unpayable. Detroit went to court to invalidate $1.45 billion in certificates of participation, debt issued by two shell companies called service corporations. The parties settled before the case went to trial, but while refusing two initial proposed settlements, the judge stated that Detroit's argument had substantial merit and that the suit would have had a reasonable likelihood of success. Melissa B. Jacoby, a professor of law at the University of North Carolina who specializes in distressed debt, noted that the negotiations have been complicated by claims that certain bonds are special and have priority over debt held by other creditors. Quote, but if some debt was issued illegally, then at the very least those creditors' claims of priority are dramatically weakened, she said. Indeed, they will be lucky to get anything at all. If bondholders were angry with Puerto Rico before, they'll surely be pissed now that there is a reasonable chance that they'll end up with nothing at all. The Federal Reserve will be forced to buy Puerto Rico's debt in the future, however, since, if this finding is upheld, credit markets will not be kind in the future. Then again, maybe Goldman will invest in Eagleville Partners, and at least someone will be willing to invest in junk bonds. So this is all symptoms. Again, I've said this numerous times. This is all symptoms of a dying empire, and along with it, its dying system. How does one preserve wealth, financial livelihood during such an event? We have thousands of years of history to look back on. Thousands. Not hundreds, thousands. And there are two things that says this will help you out significantly. Gold and silver in your possession. Take care.